Hello. I'm sick.
I'm sick.
I recently got my hands on issue 1 and 2 of The Seasons by Remender and Paul Azaceta. I was originally drawn to the whimsical style and colors of the book, but I found that it's laid out a interesting enough groundwork to keep me invested so far. I intend on reading the whole series as it comes out, and so I'm going to be talking about the first 2 issues in this video, and then maybe I'll follow along with additional videos talking about the other issues as they come out. And The Seasons follows the tale of 4 sisters: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each are named after a season, and season is their last name. The sisters themselves also seem to embody their respective season in one way or another, and I'll kind of dive into that as I get into characters. But first I want to go over where the story's at so far in the first 2 issues. The story of The Seasons begins 10 years after the disappearance of the girls' parents, who themselves were famous philanthropists and detectives. Currently, the Seasons sisters are scattered and divided, just as mysterious malicious forces creep into their lives. Each of the sisters are kind of off doing their own thing, and it's heavily implied that although they were close growing up, they don't really associate with each other anymore. The first issue follows Spring as she chases down a letter which warns of the creeping cacophony by her adventurous older sister Autumn, just as the traveling circus comes to town. Spring, the youngest sister, has been made aware of their impending plight. We see a glimpse of what the circus is capable of within the first few pages of the very first issue. Spring is pretty clearly the glue that holds her family together, or what remains of her family together, sort of a glue that's been dried in the sun and is peeling off the wall, maybe. Issue 2 gives us a larger look into the day-to-day of Spring's life, as well as allowing us a bite-sized glimpse into the lives of her sisters. Spring also talks to her sister Winter in an attempt for a conversation and to perhaps gain some guidance or clarity. Finally, the issue ends as we see the Seasons officially invited to the circus. That is the quickest way that I can define the first 2 issues story. Now to dive a bit more into the characters and what we've learned of them so far. Spring herself is a plucky, optimistic young girl. She may or may not also be able to speak to animals. At 14 years old, Spring is a bit precocious, caring for herself as independently as she possibly can in lieu of receiving any aid from her sisters or her missing parents. Her primary companion is her fish, Gilbert, who she takes with her to school, work, and whatever else she gets up to. He also tends to swear. We don't see it in the story, but Spring makes it very clear that a lot of the creatures have a bit of a potty mouth, which is funny. Summer only makes a brief appearance in issue 2, but she is a starlet. She is also perhaps the most on-the-nose interpretation of what her season would be as a person, at least at time of recording, shown to be a bit egotistical to the point of being out of touch. Summer seems to have no cares about disrupting the lives of others or inconveniencing those around her. This appears true at least for people she thinks are beneath her, such as the director or the crew or the photo shoot that she was up to when we're introduced to her. Essentially, Summer is the sun and everyone else revolves around her.
I have an overwhelming sense of grody-ness, Cupid.
It'll be interesting to see her dynamic with the other Season sisters, specifically in regards to camaraderie and teamwork. Aside from Spring, Autumn is perhaps the sister we see the most of, although even with more pages, we don't really get a good feel of what she's like as a character. Mysterious and adventurous, Autumn feels very Indiana Jones or Carmen Sandiego-esque, perhaps taking after her parents. We see Autumn warning Spring of the circus before delving into ruins to uncover what happened to their parents. Going on what little we've gotten of her, I personally get the impression that she's very intelligent, knows she's intelligent, and can be a bit hard-headed because of that. She thinks she's the smartest one in the room at all times and acts accordingly. Winter is a moody artist, hiding away in her studio atop the Seasons' home. She laments about the woes of feeling passionately about art and the heartache of destroying something that you put a piece of your soul into. In my opinion though, Winter feels very much like a hypocrite. She claims no one cares more deeply than artists, yet berates Spring and refuses to engage emotionally with her younger sister. All the while, Spring's distress is fairly apparent over Autumn's letter. It'll be interesting to see what she actually cares about on a deeper level. At the same time, I could see a lot of people liking her, even if it's only for her moody goth aesthetic. I wouldn't say I have a favorite Seasons sister so far. If anything, it would be Spring by default. None of the characters particularly stood out to me, but I think that there is a good platform to build upon for all of them. They definitely each seem to subscribe to archetypes that are pretty well known and none that I particularly dislike, so it'll be fun to kind of see how they unravel into more dimensional characters as the story progresses. As far as my overall thoughts for the comic go, firstly, I think it's worth reiterating that drew me in initially was the art, done in watercolor with loose line work and vibrant colors. The comic simply oozes with whimsy and an overall fun vibe. This is a horror comic though, and I maybe should have mentioned that earlier, but this is a horror comic, and I'm equally excited to see what direction the art will go in when it's time to create more horror elements. So far I would say it has a level of unease or like a dark fae vibe going on, but I'm excited to see what else they can create with the visuals of the comics. Overall, the writing has been just kind of okay for me. Personally, it has felt like the seasons can at times come across as a bit choppy, particularly within issue 2 in terms of timing and tone. Additionally, while the characters are interesting enough, none of the season sisters really piqued my interest out of the gate. I am interested in the Circus though, and why it's been drawn to the sisters directly. Although it is also worth noting that these early issues do sort of read like a pilot episode, with elements being established and left unexplained in pretty quick succession. We'll have to wait and see if it keeps this pace or slows down a bit in later issues once the characters and lore have been a bit more fleshed out. I've enjoyed the seasons enough that I plan to keep reading it. Only 2 issues are out, but I found them to be fun introductions into the greater narrative, and again, I do really like the art. So it's at least nice to look at, but I think that there is more to it than that. As an aside, I guess I could also just see this getting a following simply for those people that are really into clowns and circus stuff. I know it gained a lot of popularity on TikTok last year, at least on my FYP. So if you're into circus aesthetics, I think this will be a good comic for you, I guess. But yeah. I didn't write an ending to this video because I never do, but that's pretty much my thoughts and feelings on the seasons. I'm going to try to keep up with it as issues come out, and I don't know if it'd be worth covering it issue to issue or waiting a few and then doing kind of a synopsis after. But yeah. Let me know what you think. Are you going to check out the seasons? Have you seen it? Have you read it? And let me know. I'm recording this at 11 o'clock on a Thursday, so I do have to go to bed. I have work tomorrow, but have a good night, YouTube, and I'll see you soon.